Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. My name is Brian Adams Bowie, and today I am going to present my topic about Module 2, Unit 3, Levels of Linguistic Analysis, the Syntactic level. So here are the table of contents that I am going to discuss to you. First, we have the introduction. Second, the objectives. Third, the main content. And under the main content, we have units of grammar, the group, the clause, the sentence, some other syntactic features, the notion of rank shifting, the grammatical category of voice, conclusion, and we also have summary. So first, we have introduction. One important level of linguistic analysis is the syntactic level. At this level, just like any other level of language description, significant statements of meaning can be made based on the observation of the choices that a writer or speaker has made and, of course, the genre of literature and the peculiarities of the text involved. So when we say syntactic level, it deals with the structure of sentence or sentence structure. And we have also here our objective. So at the end of this unit, you should be able to first mention the grammatical elements relevant to syntactic analysis of a text. Second, state the elements of the clause in English. Third, describe the structure of the nominal group in English. And lastly, to carry out a stylistic analysis of the syntactic features of a text. So now we proceed to our main content. First, we have units of grammar. So language is a structural entity as its elements exist and function in a hierarchical order. Such units or elements include morpheme, word, group or phrase, clause, and sentence. The morpheme is the smallest unit while the sentence is the highest or the largest. In order to do stylistic analysis at the syntactic level, you should be familiar with the group or phrase, the clause, and the sentence, among other relevant syntactic elements. So it says here that language is a structural entity as its elements exist and function in a hierarchical order. So when we say hierarchical order, okay, it's from descending to ascending. So we have first the morpheme, and from morpheme we can form a word, and then from words we can form group or phrase, and then from that group or phrase we can form clause, and then we can also form sentence from that clause. Next, we have the group. Okay, the group or the phrase. A group or phrase is a stretch of grammatically coherent words without a subject and a finite verb, unless it is a verbal group, that is, verb phrase. This means that only the verbal group or verb phrase can contain a finite verb. The sentence below contains three groups. Okay, first, he is walking along the road. So in this sentence, our group or phrase, it does not contain a subject and a finite verb, unless if it is a verb phrase, and of course it would have a verb. And then here, the sentence below contains three groups, so let's identify these three. First, he is walking along the road. So this sentence has three groups. First, we have he, it is the subject. Is walking is a verbal group with the verb walking or verb phrase, and then along the road is an adverbial or the prepositional phrase with the preposition along. And then, as you must have seen above, or in the example, a group can contain one or more words and it functions like a single lexical item. So in English, the nominal group, that is noun phrase, has MHQ structures. So this means that the noun phrase has a modifier, a head, and a qualifier. So the most important word in the group is the head. So when we say the head, it is the very noun in the noun phrase. And then the head comes before the qualifier, and the modifier comes before the head. And so out of the three, that is modifier, head, and qualifier, only the head is obligatory. So there should always be a head or a noun in a noun phrase. Again, there can be more than one modifier before the head, just as there can be more than one qualifier after the head. So let's take a look at these examples. The beautiful girl. In this sentence, the and beautiful are the modifiers, and girl is the head. Next, a woman to watch. In this sentence, the modifier is a, and then woman is the head, and to watch is the qualifiers. Lastly, an influential man to watch in our political circle. An influential is the modifiers, man is the head, and to watch in our political circle are the qualifiers. Again, the verbal group, that is the verb phrase, is also important. It may be a lexical verb alone or an auxiliary plus a lexical verb. So here are the examples of a verbal group or the verb phrase. Bola will go to school. So we could see that will go is the verb phrase. We should have been there. So in this sentence, should have been is also the verb phrase. And then lastly, we danced merrily. Okay, so we could see the verb alone, danced, is the verb phrase. And then in doing a stylistic analysis at the syntactic level, you will do well to pay close attention to the choices which a writer-speaker has made at the level of group or phrase. With the nominal group, for example, you may note the use of modifiers and qualifiers with the head words and bring out the stylistic effects of such. Next, we have the clause. A clause is higher in rank than a group. It may be defined as a group of grammatically coherent words with a subject and a finite verb. So unlike the group or the phrase that does not have a subject and it is without a verb or finite verb, the clause has the otherwise. Okay, it has a subject and a finite verb. So here are the examples. They left when we did not expect. Okay, they left is a clause, and then when we did not expect is another clause. Next, unless you guide him, he won't know what to do. So there are two clauses present here. Unless you guide him is a clause, another he won't know what to do is also a clause. A clause that can stand as a sentence is called main or independent clause. Okay, that is the first of our example A and the second clause of our example B. And on the other hand, a clause that cannot stand on its own is regarded as a dependent or subordinate clause. That is the second clause of example A and the first clause of example B that we had earlier. In addition, we can have noun clause, adjectival clause, and adverbial clause. So here are the examples of these clauses. I don't know what he means. What he means is the noun clause here. Those who like us are many. So who like us here is the adjectival clause. When he came, we saw him. Okay, when he came is the adverbial clause in this sentence. Next, you should note that although we have said that a clause should contain a finite verb, the verb may be omitted in some instances to give us what we call verbless clauses. So here is an example. If possible, let the man leave now. So we can see here that a form of the verb be together with it is omitted. The full form is, if it is possible, let the man leave now. So this omission is a case of grammatical ellipsis. Furthermore, note that the following elements of the clause First, subject, second, predicator, third, object, fourth, complement, and lastly, adjunct. So here is our example. Many people are painting their houses white these days. Many people is our subject here, our painting is our predicator, their houses is the object, white is the complement, and adjunct is these days. You also need to note this. First, the predicator is the only element which is a verb phrase. Okay, so it has a verb. Second, the subject normally precedes the predicator in a normal sentence in the indicative mood. Next, the object is closely tied to the predicator in terms of meaning, and it denotes the person or thing most intimately affected by the action or state, etc., denoted by the predicator. And then, the complement can look superficially like an object. Both can be noun phrases. But, in terms of meaning, it provides a definition or characterization of the subject or object. Objects and complements normally follow the predicator. That is to say that they go after the predicator. If there is both an object and a complement in the clause, normally the complement follows the object. Okay, so the complement will go after the object. For example, John called Mary a fool. Okay, so our object here is Mary and our complement is a fool. And so we could see here that a fool came just after Mary, which is the object. Adjunct fills out the clause by adding extra circumstantial information of various kinds, which may relate to time, location, speaker's attitude, and etc. There is no fixed number of adjuncts that can occur in a clause. In this wise, they are like modifiers in the nominal group. Okay, so adjuncts can be not essential. So they are like modifiers in the noun phrase or in the nominal group. So adjuncts are the most mobile element of the clause. That is, they can be put anywhere in the sentence. It's still the clause. Okay. There are two kinds of objects. First, you have the direct object and the indirect object. There are also two kinds of complement. Okay, the subject complement and the object complement. Consider this. He was a great statesman. Okay, he is our subject, P is our predicator, and a great statesman is our subject complement relating back to the subject he. Next, they regarded him a great statesman. They is our subject, regarded is our predicator, him is our object, and a great statesman is our object complement referring back to the object him. A careful study of the arrangement of the elements of the clause can illuminate your stylistic analysis. A writer or speaker can deviate from the normal order to create a foregrounding. For example, here he comes instead of he comes here. Okay? So here, in this example, here is the adjunct, he is the subject, and comes is the predicator. Okay, we could see that the structure is not that usual, or it does not follow the usual structure. Instead, it deviates from it. Next, the sentence. Okay? The sentence is the highest or the largest of the grammatical units mentioned at the beginning of this unit. But the difference between the clause and the sentence is a matter of degree rather than kind. Simply put, a sentence is a group of grammatically related words that expresses a complete thought. Okay, again, expresses a complete thought. Both structural and functional criteria are taken into consideration in classifying sentences. So structurally, we can have simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. Meanwhile, we have such sentences in functional terms, which are declarative, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory, or request. Find out examples of these functional sentences, sentence categories, and examine closely their stylistic values as we go on. When a sentence makes one statement and contains one finite verb, it is said to be a simple sentence. Take note, it has one statement and one finite verb. Example, the consultants at the University College Hospital are resourceful. So, our finite verb here is are, okay? Or shall we say that our predicator is are resourceful? And so it is only one, making this sentence a simple. Second, the University College Hospital is a pace setter in tertiary health. Okay, it also has one finite verb. Next, when a sentence makes at least two statements, that is, it contains at least two finite verbs, and the two ideas or statements are made of equal status, then the sentence is compound. Here is an example. The consultants at the University College Hospital are resourceful and they enjoy regular refresher courses. So our finite verbs here are and enjoy. Okay? And so our two thoughts or complete thoughts here are also present, making it compound. Next, but if the two idea statements are linked in such a way that one is subordinate to the other, then we have a complex sentence, okay? A complex sentence is formed when a sentence has at least one independent clause and one subordinate clause or dependent clause. Here is our example. The consultants at the University College Hospital are resourceful because they enjoy regular refresher courses. So our subordinate clause here is because they enjoy regular refresher courses, which is linked to our um, independent clause, which is the first um, clause. Next, a compound complex sentence combines the features of both compound and complex sentences. This is an illustration. Okay? The consultants at the University College Hospital are resourceful because they enjoy regular refresher courses and they use modern equipment. So we can see here two independent clauses. The consultants at the University College Hospital are resourceful. That is the first independent clause. The second is they use modern equipment. Okay, that's the second independent clause. And there is one dependent or subordinate clause here. It is because they enjoy regular refresher courses. So these are what make this sentence compound complex. The sentence types that we have discussed have their stylistic significance. So simple sentences are used to create emphasis. Compound sentences are deployed for balancing ideas, while complex sentences express dependency or relationships, that is cause and effect. And a writer or speaker who intends to blend balanced ideas with dependency relation at a stretch will use a compound complex sentence. So here are some other syntactic features. What we have implied in our discussion in this unit is that your stylistic analysis of the syntactic features of a text should include the description of the group or the phrase, the clause, and the sentence. But in addition to this, there are other syntactic tactics or strategies that a writer or speaker can engage in. Such syntactic tactics include ellipses, parallelism, or the repetition of a grammatical structure, references, and other grammatical ties such as coordination and subordination. Okay, we will learn about this in the next video or in Unit 8. So we also have the notion of rank shifting. Okay, this is Unit 3.6. The units of grammar mentioned in 3.1 exhibit a hierarchical order. The order is also called the English rank scale. It could be viewed from the ascending order perspective or the descending order perspective. A unit of higher rank, as Tamori, 1977, page 47, puts it, may rank shift, that is, go one or more places down the scale to function in the next lower unit. So, in the tradition of American linguistics, Tamori notes that the rank shifting phenomenon is referred to as downgrading. So, this is where a unit at the higher rank function as a unit at a lower rank, so that's why there is a downgrading. The two units of grammar that could rank shift are the group and the clause. So the group or the phrase and the clause. So the national group, for instance, can rank shift in the adverbial group. That's according to Farinde and Ojo in 2000, page 49 to 50. Itemize 5 manifestations of rank shift. First, clause can rank shift to operate at qualifier in the nominal group structure. So this is an example. The man who drove the car has run away. Okay? We can see that originally the clause who drove the car here becomes a qualifier. Okay? A qualifier um, in this example, or in this sentence, sample sentence. So it becomes a qualifier in the nominal group, the man who drove the car. Next, clause can rank shift to operate as a whole nominal group. Okay, a clause could can rank shift to operate as a whole nominal group or as a whole noun phrase, either at the subject position or the complement position. For example, who stole the meat is still unknown. So here, who stole the meat is our clause, and in this sentence, it functions as a whole noun phrase. And he liked what she gave him. Okay, what she gave him is a clause which functions in this sentence as a whole nominal group or noun phrase. Next, adverbial group can rank shift to operate at qualifier in the nominal group structure. So, in this sentence, the tree by the roadside will soon fall. The adverbial group originally by the roadside, in this sentence, it functions as a qualifier. Okay? It functions as a qualifier in the nominal group, the tree by the roadside. Nominal group can rank shift to operate as completive in a prepositional headed adverbial group. For example, the boy in the class is sleeping. Okay, so the class here, which is the nominal group or the noun phrase, functions as a completive in this sentence. Next, nominal group can rank shift as deictic in the nominal group structure. That is, for example, the Vice Chancellor's office has been renovated. So deictic here is the vice. The nominal group here, the Vice Chancellor's, becomes or rank shift as deictic because it directly refers to the Vice Chancellor. So we also have the grammatical category of voice. That's Unit 3.7. So voice as a grammatical category in relation to the verbal group relates to whether the subject acts or is acted upon. Voice in this sense can be active or passive. When it is active, the subject of the verb acts. For example, Mary killed a goat. So in this example, Mary is the subject and it acts upon our object, the goat. In a text, a writer or speaker can choose between active and passive voice, and when this is the case, you should be able to explain the stylistic effect. Okay? The choice may relate to the desire to express thematic meaning, that is a way of organizing a message to indicate focus and or emphasis. This explains the difference in the information structure between John saw the boy, which is active because John is the subject acting upon the boy, and the passive one, the boy was seen by John. Okay, John became the object here, and the boy became the subject. And in the passive voice, the action is performed on the subject. Okay, that's what we were talking to earlier. There are two types of passive: agented passive and agentless passive. So when we say agented passive, it usually is indicated with the preposition by. Okay, so when we see the word by in a passive sentence, that means that it is agented passive sentence or passive voice sentence. And when the agent, okay, in a passive voice sentence is not present, that means it is agentless. For example, a goat was killed, so there is no agent here. Okay, there's no byword, and there's no um, person who who is being acted upon by the subject goat. The boy was seen. Okay, this is also an agentless passive voice sentence. Okay, the difference is illustrated below. For Tim, we have John and the boy, and then for Rim, we have saw the boy and was seen by John. So John in the active voice, John is the subject, but in the passive voice, John became the object, and the boy became the subject. So the theme indicates the given, that is what is already known, while the rim states the new, or that is the new information. The active form of the sentence above can be taken as an answer to the question, whom did John see? Remember that in Chomsky's 1965 aspects model of transformal generative grammar, both the active and the passive forms of a sentence are said to have the same structure, that is meaning, despite their different surface structures, because transformation is said to be meaning preserving. However, in the extended standard theory, or EST, of the grammar, a review of the aspects model, there's the realization that the surface structure has some input into semantic determination. Hence, transformation may not altogether be meaning preserving. And of course, our conclusion. So, with all those that we have discussed, stylistic analysis at the syntactic level, or the sentence level, calls for a good understanding of the grammatical units of group, clause, and sentence, and how they function in a text. In other words, the ability to identify the units of grammar is not enough. One should be able to describe the stylistic significance of the units. Okay, so if we are the reader, we have to be familiar with how a writer or how a speaker constructs his or her sentences, and we should also be familiar or be good at these units, group or phrase, clause, and sentence, in order for us, okay, to know the significance of the style of that author, of that speaker, or of that writer in her or his style when it comes to creating sentences. So, summary: what we have demonstrated so far are the general syntactic features that can be looked at in a text. However, the deployment of the features may not be exactly the same across the different genres of literature and non-literary text. For example, while sentence description may be productive in the analysis of prose fiction, it may not be in poetry. Therefore, it is important for you to be familiar with the form and the register of each text you study. And I think that ends my presentation for this lesson, or for this unit. Thank you for listening, and God bless everyone.